Recording in progress.
That's what I figured, yeah. Just wanted a heads up. Are you gonna eat those?
Yes.
Just kidding.
What's crazy?
That would be Kate. She wants you to
I
stay
brought
awake.
us candy for tonight.
What was that?
You're so funny. I was like, oh,
Brings her over candy, I love it.
candy.
I love it.
Chocolate.
That's great.
I chose
Boy,
the
looking
simple
over nests
pleasures.
It does make my nose run.
Oh, darn. Mission. Mission.
Did he get chocolate at his station?
Maybe not.
Did you get some chocolate at your station?
Yeah. You,
Yeah, they added.
you're thinking it's Friday?
You grab me
Okay,
one.
Beth.
Thanks.
It's only
Oh,
Tuesday.
are you going in there? All right, okay.
After you said that, you're like, oh, wait, maybe
I thought
she's
she was
not
gonna go
going
fill
there.
up in the drinking fountain. I was like,
Southwest Con dues and TPR are so expensive.
I know, and then they want more. Got your stuff up. We'll wait for David.
Yeah, Jeremy's gonna send me some more information so I can get educated. Thank you.
Everybody ready? All right, I apologize. There is no work session this evening. This agenda was getting quite full, and that was a little slight overlook, so I apologize for that. I will go ahead and call this regular meeting to order, dated October 19th, 2021. It is now 6:30. Roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Here.
Trustee Dallison.
Here?
Trustee Joswick.
Here,
Trustee Moreland. Here. Trustee Politis.
Here.
Trustee Cesaro.
Here.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
All present.
All right, if everybody would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right, does the board have any conflicts of interest to announce at this time?
I think so.
Seeing none, we will move on to general public input. If anybody from the audience would like to address the board or have comment not pertaining to any agenda items or public hearings, now is your time to step forth. State your name and address for the record. All right, and Lori, we do appreciate your written comments, and your responses are in the board packet.
Am I supposed to repeat what I said before? I saw my name on the agenda and I wasn't supposed to.
That was just to address that we had responded to your comments and questions.
Okay,
But
so
you're welcome to address the board. You have 3
Well-
minutes at this time.
what I received back is just general, this is how we let people know, but in regard to the Cinnamon Heights building, there was no information given prior to the contract being signed, and so there was no town input. And do you agree with that? I mean, that's what I got back.
I mean, public input is a time for us to listen. We don't answer questions at this time.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I just believe that the town is not going to build on Cinnamon Heights because it's just not the right thing to do. And that's all I have.
Anybody else? All right, moving on. Did everyone get a chance to look at the agenda? I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Can I get a second?
Could I just add to remove the 6:30 work session, just so that we're identifying this in the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from October 5th, 2021? If,
Madam Mayor, I would move that we approve the October 5th regular meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
all right, roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Parks and Rec, Becky is not with us today, but if you have any questions that we can, you can email those in and we can follow up. Moving on to our financial agenda items. Did everybody get a chance to look at the September 2021 financial statement?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the September financial statement.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, a reminder that our 2022 budget public hearing is 10/25/21. Katie, do you have any follow-up on that?
I have none.
Okay. We will move on to our work session, or sorry, our public hearing session. I would entertain a motion at this time per 31-12-1083 to continue 2021-04, 2107 Bayfield Parkway annexation public hearing to November 16th, 2021.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and second.
Could I ask a question? Why, maybe it
Yeah,
was in the
explain
notes,
this
why
to
it
me.
was
I
being.
want to know what's going on too.
The impact report was to be sent to the county 25 days before the public hearing, just something that I had missed. And also, the applicant is not interested in annexing until the spring of 2022. So there was no,
Hurry.
it wasn't necessary to haste this in our agenda. So,
Okay.
just so you're aware of that.
Thank you.
But it was a public, it was noticed by state statute. As long as you have less than 60 minutes of a public hearing, you can continue it without redoing the notices in the newspaper or to the adjacent property owners until the 16th, which you've just made that motion. So.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, I hereby open the public hearing regarding 2021-07 Moselle Comp Plan Amendment Parcel Number 5677-132-00-085. And keep in mind, we will have a staff presentation, we will have the applicant presentation, we will have time for public input, and we have time for questions and answers.
So on this, I am the staff person for the 2021-07 Moselle Comprehensive Plan Amendment. The property is owned by the Ludwig Family Partnership. The applicant is Moselle Equities, LLC. The property is east of Mesa Meadows and south of Clover Meadows 7. The east end of Louisiana Drive terminates at the western boundary. The parcel is 35 acres. The applicant hopes to annex and subdivide for residential development. The parcel is currently designated as open space parks. It is in the county. Open space parks in the comprehensive plan is not compatible with a residential subdivision. The consideration of recommendations to the Board of Trustees and a comp plan amendment for open space parks and medium density residential. And I am recommending approval of this comp plan amendment. Part of my findings, I believe that there was information from staff that this may have been considered for a town park or soccer fields or baseball fields. And I think in some ways the town has somewhat of responsibility that is, you know, if that's going to be the town-owned property, that's kind of a taking in some ways to label it something that the town would have enjoyment of. So this is private property. It is an agricultural property, and at the Planning Commission, the representative, Herb LaPlante, represented, and he is a nephew, a part of the Ludwig Family Partnership, and they're in favor of this as well. The Planning Commission did approve to amend the comp plan.
Just out of curiosity, is this kind of growth to subdivide this property and build homes, is that in our plan to go in that direction? I mean, what's the,
To have a mixture of home densities and types is definitely in our comp plan.
okay, just wanted to make sure that was a part of the growth that we had planned.
Yes.
I have a question, Katie. So how many other locations do we have that are already designated for this type of growth that we would not need to change a zoning? Because I'm just curious, I thought there were other parcels that are already zoned for residential that have not been built on. And my second question would be, with all the annexing we've been doing recently, I'm curious to know a little bit more about how our existing town infrastructure can support changing this from the open space that it is into more residential housing. I know that, I just want to know more about what's our water situation that we can add more homes? Because I feel like every meeting we are bringing more parcels into the town, and then if we're already have spaces that we're going to build that are already zoned, I just don't understand adding this in right now when there's probably, I believe, other land that needs to be built on, how that impacts just our, I mean, do we have enough water? Do we have enough sewer? Do we have enough road infrastructure? Like, I don't have enough information, I guess.
So this is not a zoning amendment. This is a comp plan amendment.
Okay,
That's different than a zoning amendment.
okay,
So you're changing the designation of the comp plan, which is in the county at this current time, from open space parks to medium densities. That's the request. And as far as the water service, all of these impacts, there will be an impact report. There will be quite a few reports that will be provided when they get ready to annex and develop and subdivide. So we're a little bit ahead of the process. As far as other properties that are available to build on, it still is a private property matter. And I guess my question would be is where are those properties that you're
I thought there was 300 homes that were maybe gonna be built behind Evening's Porch at some point, or there was some sort of property there that was going to become a huge neighborhood, so maybe I'm just
that's
misunderstanding.
another development that's coming your way.
Yeah, so I guess when I'm looking at this land here wasn't planned to have homes, right? Wrong?
Actually,
Okay.
the 300 homes that you're talking about is not properly designated in our comp plan either. So
Okay.
that will be another comp plan amendment as
Okay.
well before they start the process.
Okay, so then, I guess what I'm trying to understand is how our before changing things that aren't already planned, or was this in a plan that this would happen eventually? I guess I'm not understanding how our existing water and sewer and infrastructure that would go to this, I mean, if I can only water my lawn every other day in the summer, how much more water is needed to then?
So this is not at the stage of development
Okay.
yet, nor of annexation. And all of those items actually would be addressed by the engineer of the applicant and responded to by our Public Works Director as well. We're not at that point at this time.
Okay,
So basically, we could receive that information in future.
You're
and
going to
make that-
receive that information in the
And
future.
make that decision at that point.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is just preliminary first steps to go in the direction of this project.
And developments like these give us larger sums of money to add on to plants.
That's
and
correct.
things
Infrastructure.
like that.
And
we
bring
make,
the water. They'll
yeah,
bring the
we
water.
make the list of saying, well, if you're gonna make this development, then we need this, and this. to make that development
That's correct.
sustainable for the town. So,
Yes.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
not at that point.
So most importantly, trustees, at page 49 of your packet are the criteria that you're to look at and apply. And if you have questions with regards to meeting that specific criteria with regards to amending the comp plan, that should be your focus for tonight. But it is also good to keep in your mind the
Down
fact
the road.
that, yes, once you change the comp plan, you'll probably be getting further applications with regards to subdivision and so forth. So that those questions are all good, but really the focus is with regards to these criteria for amending the comp plan.
Does that,
Not to be argumentative, but I mean, if you look at number 2 there, it doesn't seem as though we can answer that question. Because that's a question that trustee Zazzaro raised, is how is it going to impact our services? And where it says here is it won't have a detrimental impact on our services. We haven't really assessed that yet, have we?
You have not, and as Town Manager Sickles stated, you will definitely get impact reports down the road. Now, if you do have information that there's going to be detrimental impact right now, if you had that information and it's available, of course apply it to B. But if you don't have that information, it's not appropriate to hypothesize about it.
Okay, but I mean, maybe I misunderstand 1, 2, and 3 as you, or 1 and 2, as you were presenting it. I thought it had to meet that criteria, those criteria, that the amendment will not pose a detrimental impact. And what I'm saying is if that has to meet that criterion, we can't.
but
we
what
don't
we're
know
being
that yet.
asked to vote on tonight has we don't know that answer. That
Right.
we'll
And-
discover potentially down the road.
It's
So
just
I'm
not
we
clear
are-
in the
I'm not trying to
packet.
nitpick.
Yeah,
it,
we're
but-
looking to, modify the.
But we just
the
don't
comp.
have to meet these. This is just a guideline for us.
And keep in mind that a park takes far more water than, I mean, the water that we put on the parks here is pretty astronomical in the summertime. Of course, that's the complaints we had from some of the citizens that, you know, we're talking about cutting water and we're watering the sidewalk and the turf out here for use of the town park and soccer field, so.
Can I ask a question just for my own clarification? The comp plan, even though the land currently is in the county, the comp plan is the counties or the towns?
It's the towns.
It's the towns, even though it's, so that applies to the 3-mile radius over which we have some say?
Yes.
Well, it's not the 3-mile radius. It's a area where we feel that we can build, and the county did respond, and they're in support of this.
Yeah, yeah. I just, it can be confusing to say, okay, it's the town's plan, but yet it's the plan for land that's in the county. And I mean, it seems to be a little bit
That's
confusing
correct.
there.
And keep in mind, the county most likely approved this. I'm assuming that they went through that process, that the county was aware of this comp plan and had some resolution to allow the town to do this.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, we don't have the applicant? here?
Yes, you do.
Oh.
Do we have people online too?
I don't have anybody online.
Okay. To add to the, would you put up the first slide there? Thank you. To add to the confusion, I'm Nancy Dawes, I'm with SEH. Somewhat apologize for this. As you know, I am a private consultant. I often work for the town. A condition of employment of being able to work for the town, because we're a consulting firm and work for a lot of people, was that we would still represent private clients. I've tried really hard over the last year and a half or so to not be in front of you representing private clients, but I just got in a situation with no one else in the firm able to be here tonight. So I want it perfectly clear that I'm representing Glenn Motzel with this project. He is under contract to purchase the property from the Ludwig Family Partnership. His intent is to develop a single-family subdivision similar to Mesa Heights, should this go forward. But the request simply tonight is to redesignate the property from parks and open space to medium-density residential. Do we have a pointer? I'm gonna go over here. So what we have up here is your comprehensive plan and the land use categories. The property in question is the northern 35 acres of the Ludwig Family Partnership's property. They also own the remainder portion in here right now. And up in here. So as you can see, what we've got with this light green color is a parks and open space designation. The property on basically three sides is designated by your comp plan for medium density residential development. So yes, there is undeveloped land designated for single family development. It's kind of a jump over a little bit or right next to it. This is probably the largest property designated now, I think, that's undeveloped and designated medium density residential. You might hear from the owner tonight that they have no intention of ever developing that in a single family residential manner. So I just wanted to make it perfectly clear, the request is simply to redesignate it. If it gets redesignated, my client would likely complete the purchase, move forward with developing the single-family subdivision, and working with the neighbors to make that work. So that's your comprehensive plan. The next slide shows the county's comprehensive plan. And just on your comprehensive plan, it is a future land use plan. So the idea would be you would designate land for the future development of the town. And it's often that you would include unincorporated land in that plan. This is the county's Bayfield district plan, so we've got some layering of plans going on. The county also has designated the property for suburban density residential development. So property in there is in that bright yellow color. The brown color is what they call perimeter residential. It's about 3 to 5 acre lots proposed in that area. Suburban density, if it's on central water and sewer, can go down to matching the town's category of about 4 units to the acre or quarter acre lots, similar to what's there on the western property boundary. To the north, you guys have it a little bit higher density, and then it would be similar to what you have on the western property. We can go there. The subdivision set up have dead-ended roads into this development from the town. So it does appear that your transportation plan and even laying out of those subdivisions to the north and west were considered that this would be a future growth area for the town. Obviously, you won't approve development if you don't have adequate water or sewer services. The road network really does appear to have anticipated this area as developing. You can go to the next one there. At the Planning Commission meeting, we heard a lot about sprawl and not approving single-family type development, looking at it as sprawl. I just Googled up one of the first reports, and this is sort of an early report on costs of sprawl. It really recommends against it, encourages you not to sprawl. If you read into that report, you're going to see that probably the worst parts of sprawl in that definition, spread out, skipped over development that characterize horizons, I can't remember the rest of it. But the idea is where you're leapfrogging out your town, and leaving pockets in between, you're stretching out your infrastructure rather than an orderly and thoughtful extension of services. Probably the worst things that you can do, are some of what the county's thinking about with 5-acre lots or these sort of very low-density residential. The costs of serving that development versus the revenue that it might bring in from taxes, et cetera, is a bad balance for most communities. So I encourage you to look at that report someday, just fun if you're into planning. The other thing we heard a lot about was that we should be saving the farmland, and it's hay farms now, I believe, and you know that's a really hard concept. The family that's farming it now has decided that the best thing for that family is to sell that property. It's very possible that they're saving the rest of the farm by selling off this land that's closest to suburban density, that will bring them in money. Most farmers see their land as their retirement account. Should community, if they don't want you to save it. If they choose to save it, great, but they don't want it saved by others, in my experience. What they want is reasonable use of their land, and in this case, the family, maybe not all of them, but the family partnership in charge has determined that by dividing off this 35 acres, developing the land that's closest to urban development, or selling it for someone who would develop it, that perhaps they'll be able to save the rest of their land because they'll have that income that they are looking to get. So I guess I feel like protecting farmland is a little different than saving it. If a community is looking to protect the best farmland that they have, they should look at land that's not have two sides developed, but that's easier to farm, that has the best soils. I'm not sure any of us have done that analysis, but in this case, we have a farming family that has determined that selling off this property is the best thing for them. And the idea of the government deciding that we should save it for them feels inappropriate and unfair to that family. So I guess that's all I want to say. If it's determined, if we could jump back maybe to the comp plan, but if it's determined that this isn't appropriate for parks and open space, and it's incredibly hard to find what would be a financially viable private use of land for parks and open space uses, golf course, there really aren't very many viable uses. We're only asking for what appears to be very reasonable because that's what's around the area now. We are hoping to be able to work with neighbors in the future. We will absolutely invest in those studies for water, for sewer, connecting of the roads, working with the adjacent landowners as far as not impacting their use of the land. With that, I guess we ask that you consider this comprehensive plan.
So I am going to, I think that we've got the wrong Zoom meeting open. So I am going to just stop the share and just go to.
I do have a question. How many of those houses, do they think?
Yeah, I want to make sure it's recorded, so.
How many
Wondering why
houses?
nobody was
Yeah.
zooming in.
I think my client wanted to be here and
Sorry.
right on, as far as,
Getting
do you
so
want me to
excited.
talk about
She,
the
she
density?
wants you to
Nancy,
wait.
why don't you wait till
Okay.
Katie gets the Zoom meeting up, so if the applicant's there, they're participating.
All right.
Let's see.
Recording in progress.
We apologize for that, everybody. We're having some technical difficulties. Can you hear us?
Just give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, can you hear us out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you may want to give those that are just now attending a quick summary of the fact that we just heard the applicant's representative, Nancy Lauro, give a summary of the application, and some questions are now being asked.
Can you hear that? We're moving on to, we just had an applicant presentation, and we're going to move on to public input. Okay. Do we have anybody that would like to address the board?
Can I ask a question
There are
first?
some questions that were about to be asked of the
Okay.
applicant's representative.
I was going to ask how many lots that the proposed owner thought there might be developing.
So the medium-density residential category is described as single-family residential areas with an average density of 4.5 residential units per acre and average lot sizes of 10,000 square feet. That's about a quarter acre.
It's,
We haven't figured it out yet.
you don't know how big the property is?
It's
35 acres.
Oh, thank you.
Along those lines, Nancy, the subdivision to form the 35 acres, did the remainder parcel equal 35 acres or greater, or did that go through a subdivision process?
An acre is
No, it went through
43,650, so
No process.
Because it's greater than 70 acres?
I
times
believe they had
30.
50 acres remaining,
Okay.
more than 35.
Was there any discussion at the planning commission, Nancy, with regards to the matter that trustee Cesaro brought up with regards to any detrimental impact to water services or any other services? And Was there any information given on that?
We haven't provided information at this stage. I suppose that the answer would be that no development would get approved until it was proven that there was no that services were adequate for any proposed use on the property.
Is there any information with regards to what services would be provided? I mean, is this odd, or is it the Bayfield's municipal system? I mean, has there been any research on that?
It's, Bayfield water is adjacent in the roads. Sewer is adjacent in 2 of the roads. At least two Bayfield maintained roads dead end at the property, looking like the intent was to extend them onto this property. So water, sewer, and access, which are usually the big 3, are all appear to be planned. I'm not gonna, at this point, tell you that you have enough water to serve 100 or so new homes in this area, but that would, if the comp plan is amended, we would look at that in detail, and you wouldn't approve a subdivision or that number of units without plans for how that could be addressed in your system. I don't believe that the town has really, if you look at that overall future land use map, that there ever was analysis of can you serve all of it with water. It's more of a concept level of, yeah, this is kind of where our town should go and what we think might be the approximate size, but those next steps in the process are what would prove or not whether it's an appropriate time to bring those units online.
Nancy, it looks like there's 2 ditches that may run through this property too, so they have irrigation opportunity as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, it's opportunity. It doesn't mean that the ditch is going to grant you that right, but it's there to say that it's there.
A question for you. To the west and the northwest, that is Mesa Meadows, right?
To the west is Mesa Meadows, to the north is
Clover 7.
Seven.
Clover
Oh,
Meadows 7.
okay, got it. And is it Mesa Meadows that the street's dead end, you said, going in, or is it also?
Mesa Meadows, that first street, I don't know.
Louisiana Drive.
Yeah, dead ends at it, and then Clover Meadows also ended the street.
Okay, do the people in Mesa Meadows and Clover Meadows, would they have any say as to whether or not they that they would allow traffic from this subdivision to come through their subdivision?
I mean, those are city streets.
No, I know the layout, I just didn't know do they control that? Do they control
That's
access?
why she was saying they're city streets.
Do they control access through their subdivisions?
No.
No.
Okay. And, not to hog the microphone here, but I will. I realize at this point, we aren't designating where easements are or any of that stuff, but I know that there is a gas well, and I assume it's in the northeast corner.
And ICAV has responded, yeah.
Yeah, as we start identifying easements, that needs to be identified where the pipeline for that is.
There are pipelines along the north property line.
Gas pipelines?
And there's a gas well in that northeast corner, and there are water and gas lines along the eastern property line.
Right, I know that there's a gas well there, I'm just saying that with the gathering line from that well, that needs to be included in where the easements, in where that easement is as well. Okay, just want to get that on the record.
Any other questions from the board? At this time, we will allow public input. You can go ahead and step up to the podium and state your name and address.
development is basically here.
Hey, Marion, you might want to grab the microphone just to make sure that we're on the record, so that, want to make sure we hear you. And
There we go. Is that on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I'm a little bit jittery because I walked in the middle of your session and I was being misquoted as I walked in. So I'm a little bit jittery and I'm gonna try to overcome the frustration of being misquoted. But, I'll get to that in a minute. But the proposed plan amendment is basically here. And the road that stubs out that the advocate was discussing is here. I'm sorry, folks on Zoom, if you can't see, but you're familiar with it. The Tone family owns this yellow portion of the ranch. That's our S corporation. And this green property down here is the property that's still in the family trust. And then my son-in-law owns about 38 to 40 acres over across 526. So we are intimately familiar with this property and very, very concerned about it. You're the town trustees. That's an important role for you to have. I don't know which way this goes. This way?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, you had it right.
And it points right at you, so terrifying. It's an important role for you to have. You're the trustees for this and future generations of Bayfield. My husband and his family, and I'm appearing today as the outlaw for the family. I'm just the in-law in the family, but also as the attorney for them. They're very concerned, and so this is my thought for you. I'm hoping you'll take away today. I picked up this magazine. I'm happy to add it to the record. At the store the other day, it's called America's Best Small Towns, 100 plus charming places from coast to coast. And based on what I heard at the planning commission, I felt like taking a big giant black marker or yellow white tape across the front of that and saying Bayfield, we're 20% cheaper than Durango. Like, that's all I'm hearing that we're trying to do here for Bayfield. And I think you as the trustees have a much bigger job and a much better opportunity than just, let's just change the sign out on the road to say, we're 20% cheaper than Durango. Because that's all I'm hearing. This is a charming town. I'm seeing faces up there that have lived here longer than I have. I've lived here for 20 years. And I've seen sprawl. I'm from Southern California. You know, I've seen sprawl. Sprawl is not just hopscotching, that's hopscotch development. Sprawl is when a town just starts blurting out from their boundaries and taking over like the arms of an octopus, the property all around them. I looked at the map when I came in. We have lots of infill opportunities in Bayfield, which would be fantastic opportunities for accessible and affordable housing if you guys could work with the private developers to make it doable for them. Putting property houses out here is not going to solve your affordable housing problem. Those houses, even a quarter acre, are not going to be affordable to almost anybody, except those people who are thrilled that we're 20% cheaper than Durango. I never once said anything about you guys saving agriculture. That's not your job. That's the farmer's jobs, and it's a hard job. And Phyllis would be here today, Phyllis Woodblood would be here today, but I know she's just had a horrible loss in the family, and I'm sure that's why she's not with us today. But those of us who, I don't work the land, Alan works the land, behind every successful manager in the modern age, somebody works the town, and that's my job. I work the land, but I don't. But it's their job to save the land, it's not yours. But it is your job to save Bayfield. And I would really ask that you consider the future of Bayfield as you start looking eastward from the boundaries that you currently have. Real briefly, we have 3 objections. The first one I already mentioned, we have lots of infill opportunities that would be great for putting in housing. You know you have to provide water to that land. That's part of being within the town. So I would really request that you focus on those properties first, because when we run out of water for these medium density being added to the town outside of the boundaries, when we all know we don't have enough water. We all got the same letter this summer that said if you're 1495, you can't water on even numbered days. We all got that letter. We don't have enough sewer capacity, we don't have enough water capacity. 160, Highway 160 is the most dangerous two-lane highway in America, they say. We've got traffic issues. Please, please, please think about that before you start adding county land to the town boundaries. I know this isn't an annexation. I know that the town manager and the developer and the developer's representatives have told me this is no big deal. This is not a big deal. This is very preliminary. This isn't nothing. Don't worry about it. It is something. It is everything. You and I both know that once you designate this medium density residential, you can't come back and tell that guy or that woman who spent a fortune investing in this land, oh, sorry, we didn't mean it. You're only going to get low density. You know that's impossible. This is the time to decide those issues. I've presented to the Planning Commission. I'll present to you as well. The developer and I have had conversations. If you want to propose an alternative plan amendment that shows that whole eastern boundary of the property is low density, what a lovely compliment to the town of Bayfield that would be, what a lovely transition to the miles and miles and miles of agriculture and open space, we will join in on that. We'll be the first ones in line to join in on that. I didn't know our property was designated residential until last week. So we support that plan amendment in a heartbeat. I really ask that you think about the long-term impacts before you change this to medium density residential. Thank you.
Do we have any other public input? Do staff or the applicant?
I have a question.
Hold on, we got somebody on. Did somebody raise their hand on Zoom?
I did. Glenn Roselle.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Roselle in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I'm the applicant for this comp plan amendment. Yeah, if the amendment is approved, we plan on working with the neighbors and the city to design an appropriate neighborhood. We will immediately follow with our annexation zoning and plat applications, and I'm hoping it can be a neighborhood that the city's proud of. Thank you again to the board and staff for your time tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions if needed.
Lori, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. So when I'm looking at that land, it's a big rectangle. Why is it that we're not just considering the land that would complete the square of Clover 7 and Mesa Meadows in that, like, I think that's what you were referring to, Ms. Tone, the eastern? Is that, what were you referring to, I guess, is the better question?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the eastern boundary of the town right now is the big black line.
Yes.
And I have no idea why it's not that rectangle instead of this rectangle. I have no idea. That's the developer's question. But this is the town boundary, and
Yeah.
and there are 2 ditches that run through it. That's another issue we talked about planning commission, which is that we, of course, would be requesting those get undergrounded, but it does come down through here. The camel lateral comes right below our house, crosses this property, and then serves the Southern Gate property. So I think you should be consulting with the Southern Gate, but that's the town boundary.
So what were you saying that you would support on the eastern boundary of the town?
You know, before we go on,
Oh.
I think it's really important, Marion, that you be on the record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you do
because-
have to be on the record.
She supports low density,
This
not
is not what we're
medium.
voting on tonight.
Well, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand so that if I vote yes, that I know what I'm voting
This
for.
is
because-
all down the road, anything that is being
Yeah.
discussed tonight.
Well, I don't know how to do a plan amendment. I've contacted the town to say we'd support a plan amendment that puts this whole portion, and I guess squaring off this corner makes as good a sense to me as anything else, but puts this whole portion in low density. We would support that and join in on it. This is what I call the Howell subdivision. It's county, and it is low density.
Okay.
So what we propose is everything over here south of, this is 526. It comes all along here, and then this is 523. This is actually southern jurisdiction north of 523. But anyway, we low density, my father-in-law probably roll over in his grave if he heard me say that, but we think that would be a good buffer zone for Bayfield, and we'd be happy to be part of it. I'm still not loud enough. Shocked.
I just want to make sure for your benefit, Mary, and I'm not trying to hound you or anything, I just want to make sure what you have to say is on the record.
And it's not on the record anyway.
All right, do we have any other input? Questions?
I have a question, Marion.
Yes, sir.
You
Uh-oh.
wrote a really good letter defending your position.
Thank you.
However,
I knew that was coming.
you know, you own a lot of property over there, and you want the neighbors to have, basically, keep their situation the same. Why didn't you all purchase the property?
Well, number one, we're ranchers and we can't afford to do anything. So.
Aha! So this gets to exactly what the Ludwig's situation is.
No, sir, it does not. This is not the Ludwig situation. The Ludwig Partnership is willing to sell off a portion of their land. This is Mr. Mosell's situation. This is Mr. Mosell's project for you. The Ludwigs are under contract to sell their land to Mr. Mosell. If he gets what he wants from you, he'll close the contract. If he doesn't, he won't. So, I'm not saying that ranching is lucrative. I'm saying that as a planner who's been doing land use planning since 1981, I'm sorry, with all due respect to your planner, who also serves as the project advocate here, that it doesn't make any planning sense to put in medium-density residential on the border of your town.
But, you know, I'm gonna push back just a little bit.
Because don't we already have?
Because,
I'd be disappointed if you didn't, David.
well, because, number one, Clover 7 is already more dense than is what's being proposed here. And all of Mesa Meadows is what is being proposed here. So I don't see it as a conflict. I really don't.
You know, and I'm
And-
not gonna argue with you.
And-
You guys are in
okay,
charge.
No, and so, you know, from that point of view, I will support the amendment change right now, and then we will see what comes along. But, you know, I agree that water, sewer, access are all important. I also agree that how development goes forward and how it impacts neighbors is important. But growth is going to occur. And honestly, so we can say, yeah, it can be small, or it can be what it is. You know, I live right in the middle of town, and when we had a couple individuals that came and spoke to me, and I ended up with a really high-density development next to me.
My only comment back is this, what we're told and what I think is procedurally an error is for you to say, this isn't binding. This is no big deal. This is just a plan amendment. Because I think that the town trustees, I'm asking the town trustees to really consider, you know, where are we gonna get the water? Where are we gonna get the sewer? So that you don't lead the developer on. I mean, Mr. Mosell's a big boy, he can take care of himself, but you don't lead these developers on by saying, yeah, we're gonna put you in a medium-density residential. When they come back at a subdivision level and they're got entitlements in place, you're gonna be pretty hard-pressed to say, no, we're not gonna follow through with this. Now's the time to be thinking about water and sewer and traffic.
And I am, because, number one, this property has irrigation on it. So I know that that can be converted to town water rights.
But that's all there is. There's no groundwater.
We're not drilling wells on it.
Yeah, but there's no groundwater to trade. All you've got is the irrigation off of the
We can
Schroeder
trade the
ditch.
irrigation water.
Yep.
We do that all the time. We spend lots and lots of money doing that. The other thing I want to push back on is your insistence that we develop infill. That is predicated on somebody else coming to the board with a proposal. And we don't have anybody else coming to the board with a proposal for stuff that's inside the town boundaries.
That's
If
'cause
we
it's
did,
cheaper to
we
buy
would
it
be
outside.
listening to it. We're gonna have something here later tonight, one thing.
And,
One
and,
thing.
and we're thrilled about that, but it's cheaper to buy outside. Look, we all know that. It's the economies. It's cheaper to buy county land outside and then hope that you guys will approve it than it is to buy the, however many acres are in white on your map right there. That's expensive land.
There's county land surrounded by the town for sale right now that can't be bought for the same price. I understand that. So people have to go where the economies of scale can be realized. I hope you know that too.
I understand that. I just think it's bad planning. I think that we're going to be here talking about water, and unfortunately, that's our property right, the water that gets lost first. I mean, we have property rights to that water, but of course the residential and the urban are going to take precedence. So, I don't care about looking at it. I've been looking at Clover Meadows for the last year and a half. I don't care about what I look at. What I'm trying to figure out is why, yes, I sound like a NIMBY, I get it, I understand that. I don't live within your jurisdiction, you don't have to pay attention to me. Of course, neither does the Ludwig Family Partnership, and of course, Mr. Moselle lives out of state. So I feel like I'm kind of on an equal footing in terms of constituencies with all of them. But I don't think that this makes sense. I wish the town would take a position that no development gets approved unless you've got water for it, because I know for a fact that it's our livelihood and our water that gets lost.
I would like to address that because I think it's a misconception that by my saying yes today means that I'm going to say yes to whatever we're presented on the water. If there's not enough water or infrastructure capabilities of the town, the answer is no. I mean, and that's it.
That's
It
not
doesn't.
what we're being asked today.
That's not what we're being asked to do today. But I do want to assure you that I would want to see a plan. I want to see those plans. I want to see if it's feasible. And if it's not, Marion, I'm not interested. 100% not interested. Because I live here too. I live in town. Do I want to lose my water from my home? Do I want my neighbors to lose theirs? No. So please hear me when I say that piece of it, because that's the truth of how I personally feel.
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. It's, what we call cumulative effects. Once it's approved for medium density, you're going to have a lot harder time telling Mr. Moselle or his, when
I'm
he
going to
turns
be
in
honest,
and sells
I
it.
do not have a hard time telling him no if we don't have the infrastructure. If we don't have it, we don't have it. But it's his right to, it's the right of the people to sell the property. It's the right of the purchaser to try to buy a property that they feel could do whatever it is they need it to do. You know what I mean? So giving him that opportunity to look at it is important to me.
I totally agree, and I'm going to get off the podium because it's your decision to make. I really think this town is special. And I don't
We all
think
do.
thank you. And I don't think that looking at this as, just where can we stick 150 more houses is the answer to planning this town. This town is very special and could be more special, but what we're doing is creating a pancake of development out on the boundary. I think you could have something better. So thank you for listening to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
May I ask one more question before we vote? Sorry. If we voted today to change this to, or let's say.
It's on the agenda.
Yes. So if the vote comes back no, is this something that could be voted on again in the future?
It's a case-by-case
Yeah,
scenario.
so this could be reconsidered.
But not on this, unless.
Every application, every personal property right has a right to ask.
And Bayfield is going to see this a lot. I mean, a lot of the family ranches that are owned are going to change hands. This is not the only time that we're going to see this at all, in any way.
We have quite a few coming.
Yeah.
All right. Any last-minute conversation? All right, I hereby close the public hearing regarding 2021-07 Moselle Comp Plan Amendment, parcel number 5677. 132-00-085. I We'll now open the public hearing regarding 2021-09 Orchard PUD subdivision sketch plan, parcel number 5677-122-09009. Keep in mind, we will have a staff presentation, the applicant's presentation. We will open it up for public input and then have a time for response.
So this is where Nancy is our consultant for this project.
Sorry, once
We need a
again,
different
for the
hat for you.
openness. So this is a request for an infill development. The property is located at the intersection of Clover and Orchard. It's currently vacant. It's zoned multifamily. It's approximately an acre in size. Right? The proposal is to create a plan unit development to allow for the development of a sort of mixed use of homes. 5 townhomes, 2 duplexes. The duplexes are a total of 4 units. They're attached only by the garage. And then 5 single-family homes. It's a total of 14 units on 1 acre parcel. As far as comments, we send it out to agencies for comments, and I guess, let me back up. This is a sketch plan review. You don't do these a lot. You haven't done these for subdivision. It's the concept level. So once again, we don't have all the information for you as far as water plans, sewer plans. The roads aren't designed. The drainage is not yet designed. The idea here is to review the concept of the zoning and approximate number of units that's proposed on this 1 acre piece. With Bayfield standard zoning, there is not a zone district that will match this type of request. Looking through it, you've got option of taking multifamily zone, which is really sort of set up for a pure multifamily development. If you look at the chart there on densities, lot areas, setbacks, you really can't mix and match the single-family homes, the duplexes, and the townhomes on separate lots to meet the multifamily zone category. So the concept then was that we either get high density or you could develop all purely single family in the multifamily zone. Of course, that would lower the density, but I really didn't find a way to do this mix other than to put your plan unit development overlay on the property. So that is the request here, is for a plan unit development, basically a custom written zone, which would allow you to create the small lots for the single family mixed in development with duplex lots and townhome lots. We haven't yet seen the subdivision plat, so we're not sure how that's going to work out either. But we're making the assumption that you couldn't possibly meet setback criteria with duplexes, townhomes. Those single family homes as shown there are basically 0 lot line, so that the home would sit on the northern property line, and then you would have your yard and garage to the south there. So, let me go over as far as density sketch plan requirements, the comprehensive plan with multifamily talks about an average density in high density. If it's developed at high density, it would get developed at 20 units to the acre. If it gets designated as residential or single-family type residential, it would get developed at 8.5 residential units to the acre. They split the difference quite nicely. The average of 8.5 and 20 is 14 units to the acre, which is what's proposed here. So again, I believe it meets the actual almost letter of the comprehensive plan, although the plan didn't anticipate this type of mix of uses on one parcel. Other areas of the comprehensive plan is to identify properties that can be strategically redeveloped or transformed to enhance economic development opportunities, and prioritize development of land that is adjacent to existing utility services. So it does feel like it's meeting several of those policies and recommendations in the comp plan. And should be, it is in an area already well served with town infrastructure. We did say that although these units are not proposed to be income restricted, given the small lot size and small unit size, they will likely fall at the lower end of cost for single family homes. So they're not proposing to income restrict it. It may come out that way. As far as sketch plan requirements, the intent is to simply look at the feasibility of a project, looking at that conceptual design, ability to serve it with water and sewer, if there are any hazards or other concerns, and whether it meets with the comprehensive plan. I think we've gone over that. It appears that it is. The property is currently vacant. There is a unusual mix of uses in the neighborhood, including industrial, and assisted living complex, some vacant parcels, and single-family homes to the south. It does appear to have legal ability to serve water, sewer, and other utilities. It does appear to be free from hazards or environmentally sensitive areas. As far as access, they stated, it looks like access is both off of Orchard and Clover. They did state at the Planning Commission meeting that it's possible that off of Clover, they will gate that and make it be just an emergency access. But we'll have to work those ideas out at the next level of review. I will say that the design of that road is not a town standard road system, so it will have to function more as a private driveway maintained by the owners, plowed by the owners, and not accepted by the town as a public street. The one other thing that we discussed a little bit is pedestrian access in the area. There is no current connectivity with sidewalks on Clover on that stretch of the block. You are close to a sidewalk network, but it wouldn't connect down to, what's the next cross street? Anyone know?
Daylily, Meadow Circle.
So there are sidewalk system down there, but that side lot line does not currently have a sidewalk. But again, that is something we should discuss at the next stage of the preliminary plan review as to whether or not it's appropriate to put sidewalks along the frontages or other way of pedestrian connection throughout this development. So I guess with that, staff is recommending approval, finding that the project does appear to be feasible and does meet it consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan and all requirements of the land use code. I did add a condition about the sidewalk improvements along Clover and Orchard Drive, just to be clear that we think that should be appropriate in this area. I guess that's it, unless you have any questions.
I have a question for you. So the square footage of some of these single-family homes is 1,500 square feet. Are we talking that these homes would be, I think I did hear you say affordable? And that's,
We
or,
What I wanted
or
to
not
say
deed
is
restricted?
they're not proposed as income restricted.
Okay,
The applicants,
They're here, so we can.
okay.
specific, the floor plans, I believe, showed two-story units for the duplexes and single family.
I think they just fall on the cheaper end of the scale is what happens, because they're
They're smaller,
and
higher
they're
density.
higher density, so you don't have as much land cost.
Would the applicant like to step up here?
Sure. I'm Andrew Klotz. This is my business partner, Ian Barraclough. we're the actual builders of the project. I think Nancy hit most of it, so I'll just, if you want to go back to the beginning of our presentation, I'll just blow through. I won't spend any time on stuff she's already talked about. I'll try to answer some of the questions. Is there anything before that slide? I guess everybody knows where this is at. It's basically, there's no, you can see the close-up picture, you know, the manor's across the street, that's the county yard. There's really no vegetation on the lot. We acquired this property some months ago. The next slide, I think you guys already discussed it. This is under current zoning, a multifamily zoning district, so that allows for single-family apartments, duplexes, townhomes. And based on our calculations, looking at your land use code, it looked to us like you could develop it up to 24 units per acre, which would basically on a 1 acre property be an apartment complex. And it was our understanding that the previous people that were under contract before we bought the property were going to build an apartment complex there. So what we're proposing is about half of what the currently allowable density is. And as Nancy said, you know, it's 5 detached units. And we can go to that slide of the layout. And then there's 4 partially attached. Those ones along the bottom are actually technically townhomes because their garages touch. And the 5 single families along this side, the garage and the unit next to it are 5 feet apart, but the units themselves are 16 feet apart. And just to be clear on the PUD, I believe that the way we've got this laid out right now, all of the exterior perimeters of the property meet your current setbacks under code. So the only really the only reason we're asking for the PUD is because of those internal, you know, the 0 lot line and the internal setbacks. We just couldn't, we were trying to build a project that was pretty compact on small lots and, like she said, affordable, which I'll address in just a second. The road, you know, we have to access. It's a 24-foot road. It does not meet the full right-of-way, obviously, but it's not a super like alleyway either. It's 24 feet wide as it's drawn in there. So, and then of course the 5 townhomes on the north side. So that's basically the project. We were trying to compare it to, we were looking at Clover Meadows, which is a great project, but it's definitely, those are, you know, closer to 5th acre lots or 1/4 acre lots. You know, those houses have and probably will continue to sell in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. We're trying to hit a lower price point here. So some of these units will probably be closer to 1,100 square feet up to about 1,500 square feet with those units on the side. So there, if you go a couple slides, or at least a slide or 2 forward, you can kind of see some pictures of units like that we're thinking about building. There's some watercolors. There's actually some pictures of a project in Buena Vista. Those units are 16 feet wide and pretty close, and they also have, you can't see the garages on them very well, but the next picture also shows what that this looks like. So it's just a different product than what Clover Meadows has got going on over there.
Is there a homeowners association that you typically set up in this kind of a situation?
We'd have to do a homeowners association for the road at minimum, for
Okay.
like a road maintenance agreement. But our goal is to minimize the amount of common property and try and keep people, so they have lots. The lots are small. Let's say,
Right.
you know, it's not like these are, this particular project has a big open area in between, and we just don't have enough room on that project to do this.
And what's the square footage of the property currently?
It's right at an acre.
An acre,
Right
okay.
at 44,000 square feet. So.
Oh,
The next one kind of shows
dense.
a town of a bank of 5 townhomes. So ours are not going to look exactly like this. We're going to design them, but we're trying to build a nice little neighborhood here at a lower price point. The next one is. I probably don't need to tell you stuff you guys already know. This is how we arrived at our decision to do this. Is the demographics, you know, 25 to 44 is kind of the age group that's growing and makes it a big population. You guys have 1,100 housing units. I don't know if this is exactly right, but from what we could see, there's only about 20 to 50 existing vacant platted lots, like shovel-ready lots available in Bayfield. Now, I may be wrong on that.
Yeah,
You guys can help me out.
That's
Help me
pretty
out.
close.
And your comp plan was saying you needed 50 per year, so, you know, that's a tough number to hit. So that's part of the reason we were like, oh, this could work. It's an infill project. And then I think there was just a couple of things that I want to talk about in terms of, on the next couple slides, of just about Planning, I think you guys already talked about that, so I won't hit that. Infrastructure, a couple slides down, you can see that our conversations with LPEA, our engineer, drainage shouldn't be an issue on this lot, based on soil permeability and some other things that he looked at. LPA is not that forthcoming with information until we actually get it platted, but there's no reason to believe that they can't service it. We talked to your Public Works, and they didn't seem, you can see on this picture that water and sewer go down both sides of the lot. It didn't seem like there would be any issues with serving this 14-unit development right now. I can't think of, we talked to Black Hills Energy. We had our excavator out there looking at, your sewer depths and stuff. We just didn't see any infrastructure red flags on this property that we know of right now. Finally, probably maybe traffic is top of mind for people. We just did an analysis using the IT Institute of Transportation Engineers. It looked to us that at full build out, this won't produce any more traffic than surrounding area uses, whether they're commercial, the little retail, the retirement community, the county yard, et cetera. So we're gonna produce about the same amount of traffic as those other uses do. And we'll probably produce about half as much traffic as would be produced if you build this out to full, your maximum zoning right now, which would be an apartment complex at 22 units. So we should produce about half of that. And I think maybe that was it. I'm not sure. I guess that's why I make these PowerPoints so I can remember what I was gonna say. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a couple things that we think were good about this. One is this idea that, zoning should kind of transfer. If you see that picture on the left, like you have commercial uses over here, and they want to kind of gradiate down to single family. So right now what you've got is you've got commercial, and then you've got Clover Meadows, and it just goes wham like that. And we're just, more typically what happens is you have like apartment complexes, townhomes, duplexes, small single family homes, and you kind of gradiate down into the neighborhood. So we feel like our project is going to kind of do that, make that transition across Orchard and from Clover there into the Clover Meadows neighborhood. So, and I think I already hit the affordable product part. So our goal is to try and be between $300,000 and $400,000 to hit that segment of the market that Clover Meadows isn't capturing.
That's crazy.
So I think, our plan was to get, hopefully to get to final plat sometime by next spring and maybe break ground by then. And really what we're doing here is before we invest in the substantial cost of the surveying and the engineering is just to make sure that this isn't seem crazy to you guys, that this is a workable concept, and then what we'll bring back to you next after we get together and pay the engineers and surveyors and bring back a plat. So that's really all I had.
I personally think this is a much needed and very cool little project, so.
I do too, as long as the infrastructure supports it.
What I think is crazy is putting 14 units on an acre.
Better
I've
than
been trying-
24.
I trust you because you're an architect and you are architects, but it's really funny. I've been trying to wrap my brain around just how you can get this many units in one space. And then I was thinking about the south end of Durango, where I used to live, that there are a whole bunch of, duplexes there now. And if I had a friend who lived in there, and it was impossible to get around in there. Like it's this nightmarish little space that's just packed in there with little vehicles and parking spaces. And your idea, and I know it may not come to fruition, but having it not even gated, having it opened on two sides so that you can kind of have a free flow of people moving in there. And then I was also thinking on my way driving up to work, right next to Faringway, if you guys think of where the Durango Hostel used to be and Faringway, right in between there's this tiny little sliver of townhomes, very similar to what you guys are proposing. I don't notice any traffic coming out of there in the mornings when I'm trying to commute in and out. I don't know exactly who lives in there. My guess is probably young families. And the proximity to the schools for this too it's just, I don't know, I think it's great that it's so close to the primary schools, and if we're trying to get young families to move in here and have some place to live, this is the opportunity. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I know exactly the neighborhood you're talking about in Durango. We definitely don't want to do that. I mean, unless if you're driving anything bigger than like a Honda Civic hatchback, you can't get through that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Everybody has trucks in Bayfield.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Well, that said, it's a PUD. And one of the things that I see here lacking is a place to put snow.
To pile the snow?
To pile snow, because number one, the town's not gonna do it. And so where are you gonna put your snow? That's a good question. I wanna know where you're gonna put your snow.
That is a good question. If you bring back the plat map, which I think is one after this, I think there's another one right after this slide, maybe. Or maybe it's back.
I mean, I know what, you know, we get those infrequent snows. Generally, you're not going to have an issue here. But from time to time, we get those 5-foot snows, or have to deal with 5 foot of snow.
Yeah, I know, it's a nightmare when it
And,
happens.
and it's not just you, it would be everybody. But still, we all have to be responsible for our own snow.
There is, what we have on there right now is a guest parking area.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's yard space.
These are all parking spots.
Yeah.
So I don't have a
These right
perfect
here.
answer for you,
Those
but
are
you can see that
extra
there's
parking.
like guest parking on the west side, there's.
And on the south,
And on the south there, and then presumably along that setback between the townhomes there. And then actually where we show those garages south of those townhomes, we're gonna try to line those up with the townhomes. We just kind of were messing around with that. So that would leave a nice spot, you know.
right.
Left
Yes.
a
that
nice
you-
idea.
Okay.
It's just, you know, like I said, just something to throw into your thought
Yeah,
as
no,
you're,
that's a good question.
as you're moving forward, because I know this isn't your final iteration that you're gonna bring before the board, but Fox Farm is pretty dense development, and it seems to work real well. And honestly, I would prefer that the town do this type of development than quarter-acre lots, honestly, because it's better use of land. I know Marion would prefer that too, but
You know, I think when I look at this too, I'm trying to also figure out if if I lived there and I had a couple people over, if there's not enough guest parking, where are they parking? And then are they all in the neighborhood on the other side parking their cars? I know in Mesa Meadows right now, we have people who don't wait for the hug and go or kiss and go. They actually line up in our neighborhood and then they walk down the staircase to get, and so they block off some of Hickory Ridge. And that's just to pick up their kids from the school. So if you're imagining, these are all families, and I don't know how many people in those houses could have cars. Where else could they possibly park if they had a friend came over and there's no visitor parking? I mean, I think this is super cool. It kind of reminded me of some of the development in Three Springs, just the look of these houses. I was thinking that it looks nothing like the houses that are in Clover Meadows over there, so it's definitely gonna be a transition, but I like the look. But I just don't see where there's gonna need to be more parking, and there's definitely gonna need to be a sidewalk, but, cause it's really close to the school. But I agree with what David's saying, where does the snow go, and then where do extra cars go?
As it stands right now, there is, so each unit has 2 parking spaces. You know, the garage and then one in the driveway. A couple of solutions that you could do for that is, you know, one, and I don't know how this would fly, but you could front driveways out onto Orchard from those townhomes. That would provide more parking spaces. And then where the garages are in back, you know, we could change those, we could flip those garages to the front, we could leave them there, move the townhomes back, have a couple parking spaces.
Yeah.
I believe there's, do you know how many extra parking spaces there, she drew in, is it just four
Yeah,
extra
that's all
parking
I've seen.
spaces?
Yeah.
So if everybody in the neighborhood wants to have a party on the same night, it'd be a problem.
Well, then you're also assuming that everyone in the neighborhood only has 2 cars, and I know just from my neighborhood, that's not correct. Plus there are campers and boats and whatnot. Clearly, that doesn't work here, but
It's a-
it's just
The people-
something I'm looking at
The
here.
people who buy property like that, though, they already take into consideration, like.
If they can-
If they can
what they
make it
have.
work with their vehicles and stuff like that, just from having lived in those kind of properties in my lifetime, so.
Plus, there is a homeowners association that oversee things like that,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that.
It's part of what
They
makes
don't
us
get
different than
involved.
Clover Meadows. You know, Clover Meadows, you might get an 8,000 square foot lot, or maybe even 10,000, I think, over there.
Yeah.
And then you know, if you can afford that property, you buy that, and you can park your boat or trailer there. Yeah, when people move into this, yeah, it may be $100,000 cheaper, but there's always trade-offs, right? You're not gonna be able to park your 30-foot bass boat, probably.
I don't think someone living here is going to have a boat. I'm just thinking.
Well, they
of
might.
me,
That's
but-
But they can pay
People
for
who live across
storage.
For me, there's like 4 or 5 cars there at all times. and
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean-
single family, and I'm like, good lord,
Yeah.
a lot of cars. Because some of the proposals for the square footage, I'm just saying, it's bigger than my current house, and I have a single-family home in Mesa Meadows. So I'm just imagining, wow, if I had that extra space, or had teenagers who had cars, yeah, just where,
Move
what
the
are,
teenagers into the townhomes.
Yeah.
buy another house.
Is there a possibility that Orchard Drive is large enough that we can have a 2-way street and parking? I don't think it's large enough either. But I see, like, there's a picture here right now that I'm looking at that actually has like a bird's eye view of Orchard Drive, and it's dirt, and there's a semi packed on it. And I'm like, wow, you could fit 3 lanes there really easy if that semi is a legit size on my picture here.
I actually liked what you were talking about when you said flipping the parking
driveways.
and the parking and putting it on Orchard versus having it
Pages.
part of the road, just because then you just have a little bit more room for snow and additional street parking if you needed to, so.
Maybe Nancy can answer. The reason we were reluctant to draw it that way is, one, we weren't sure that that was the smartest way to do it, and 2, there's often regulations concerning distance between driveways.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you've got townhomes, and you'd have like, 2 or 3 shared driveways there, and, number of egress out onto Orchard at that close together. And maybe that's okay, maybe it's not. We just,
Generally, it's better to keep a lot of driveways off of the road, but I don't know that Orchard's ever gonna go anywhere. We'll work
Right.
that out, and Jeremy will weigh in,
Supposed to
and our
have some
engineers
place.
will weigh in, and we'll try and figure it out. I'm not sure how you have those detached garages in the front.
Yeah, I feel like it's more secure having it inside the. All right. Do we have any more questions for the applicant? Do we have any public input? All right, anything else? Well, I hereby close the public hearing regarding 2021-09 Orchard PUD subdivision sketch plan, parcel number 5677-122-09-009. Okay. We will move on to our land use action agenda. At this time, I would entertain a motion to table the ordinance 46X 2107 Bayfield Parkway annexation and business zoning until November 16th.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to table the ordinance for 46X2107 Bayfield Parkway annexation until November 16th.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to the Mausel Comp Plan Amendment from open space parks to medium residential density. Any discussion on that? I would entertain a motion from the board.
Madam Mayor, I would move that the Mosul comp plan amendment for parcel number 5677-132-00-085 from open space to open space dash parks to medium residential be approved.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes,
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
No.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 against.
All right, moving on to the Orchard Planned Unit Development Subdivision Sketch Plan. Any questions, comments? I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would move to approve the Orchard PUD subdivision sketch plan for parcel number 5677-122-09-009 as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
yes,
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our ordinance discussion agenda.
So currently, have drafted the sewer ordinance. This replaces the Bayfield Sanitation District ordinance that got adopted in 2008. And that really has not been updated to be consistent with our town ordinances. We're also doing the solid waste a modification, and that includes changing the billing date. All of these are considering the billing date. And then the Article 15, Chapter 15, Article 2, Section 15. This is the water enterprise code as well, the operations, and we're changing some items there. It became a lot more clear that we have a lot of edits that need to be made still to the sewer ordinance. Also, we have some water operations that don't necessarily follow the code. And so we were looking at actually extending to Division 3 and including Division 4 and probably more parts of Divisions 4. So, you know, I think that it's important to get it right and not do that, especially as many pages as these are. So you have that in your packet, you have the drafts in your packet, and we'll still work through some of these additional issues that we feel that we need to make sure that they're correct, so.
All right, does the board have any questions?
yeah, roughly next month,
Well,
March?
probably the 16th.
Okay.
And the 16th, we had hoped to also bring some rate changes to the board as well in a resolution. But that can still wait until December. So a
Okay.
resolution become effective immediately, whereas an ordinance becomes effective 30 days after published, so.
Good, thank you.
All right, moving on to old and new business. Do we have any general public input pertaining to items 7A through E on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the Colorado opioid settlement MOU.
So you have extensive documents, I think there's 101 pages regarding the opioid settlement. We're looking for your motion basically to authorize the mayor to execute the documents. This is going to be managed through Region 9, and Region 9, we would, let's just say that you approve this to have the mayor execute these documents. Access and some of the other organizations that are better able to deal with opioid abuse or mental issues regarding opioid use. So we're working on kind of connected, collective process to use these funds. It's over quite a few years where that funds we would receive, but it's still very small, even in Region 9. But our goal is to work kind of collectively with all the other areas within Region 9. So
Region 9 is acting as the fiscal agent, or Durango is?
currently, right now, Region 9 is acting as the agent and organizer, and they do have that authority under
Okay.
portions of this settlement agreement.
All right.
Now, if you decide not to authorize it, they're looking for a certain percentage of local governments, counties, and municipalities to sign it. So either way, you know, there could be a chance where you're in it anyway. And there is quite a bit of information in here, and I certainly entertain your motion. If you would like more time to review this, certainly you could table that until your next meeting on the 2nd of November.
Well, I know that you probably know a lot more about this than I do, because 101 pages was a little daunting. What's the downside of our doing this?
There is no downside.
Okay?
And
That's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, the big issue for the trustees is the way in which the monies can be managed, and then ultimately monies dispersed to the municipalities and so forth. But that's all worked out for the most part in the MOU as far as percentages based upon populations and so forth.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when you say the money's dispersed to the municipalities, what will our obligation then be with those funds?
I think what Region 9, and, you know, for full disclosure, I do sit on the Region 9 board and the executive board, but what they're looking to do is get treatment. They're looking at treatment in this area,
Right.
pooling funds in this region.
Yeah, no, I understand that. When Michael said that we would be getting funding, the municipality
It would
would be
be
getting
on
funding.
behalf of Region 9. It would basically benefit the town, but we're not gonna get a check. It's gonna
Oh,
pool
okay.
to the region to.
Okay, I misunderstood what he was
Yeah,
saying.
I
then.
misunderstood that too. Thank you for clarifying, because I was like, what are we?
We're gonna
hiring
let,
someone
you
to
know,
do this?
Region 9 represent
Yeah,
all of
okay.
our smaller
So
municipalities.
we're not going to end up having to hire someone to administer
well,
this or
that's-
anything.
No,
Okay.
and I will tell you that, you know, Laura over at Region 9 has taken this bull by the horns, absolutely, and she is fully vested in this
Okay.
project.
Good.
Well, Madam, if you're ready for a motion,
I am.
I would move to approve and authorize Mayor Tarkenton to execute the Colorado opioids settlement MOU as finalized by Region 9 and the legal review as necessary.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to the Phelps Investment Properties pre-annexation request.
So this is a property that the Phelps, there's 5 Phelps that are actually on the deed. It does not belong to the Phelps investment properties. So they would like to receive LaPlaud's water. There was a letter and the application, everything, and we're recommending you approve the pre-annexation agreement for the Phelps, all 5 Phelps family members.
All right.
Is the applicant here?
They are not here.
Any other questions from the board? I would entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Mayor Tarkington to sign the pre-annexation agreement for the 5 individual Phelpses listed per the
Deed.
deed.
Yeah, I
I
like
saw
that. It's
that
per
too.
the
Gives
dead,
them-
yeah.
For the dead. Must be Halloween.
Can I get a second?
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to Regional Housing Alliance.
So they're looking for a November 4th date to have this executed by all the the 3 municipalities and the county. At this time, Town Attorney Goldman has not had a chance to review it. You can certainly table this, or you could approve the Mayor Tarkington executing it after legal review, and it is certainly up to you. It has been reviewed by the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments legal, and I believe that I just got a highlight from the county regarding some terminology that they would like the RHA to review. So I would recommend at this time to table that to determine what they found, that the terminology that they would like to see modified.
I did review it this afternoon and added my red line comments to the county's red line comments, going back to the town of
There we go.
Ignacio, who initially drafted this.
Yeah.
So we should have a final document for your consideration at the next meeting, or the designated meeting that Ms. Sickles just set forth.
I think we should table it.
Table it till the,
I would make a motion, Madam Mayor. May I?
yes.
Make a motion to table the RHA agreement until the November 2nd, 2021 meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Second? Yes.
Trustee
Yes, I'm
Tallison.
sorry.
Yes. Trustee Joslin.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to Southwest COG funding increase.
So this was a meeting on the 14th of October regarding an increase, and Trustee Black is also on the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments, may be able to provide information. There was a letter that was also provided, including their goal to go after some of the grants and the fact that their current staffing is not able to do that. So they had $100,000 that they felt that would need, and our share is $4,980.
Totaling to
Yeah,
$13,226.
and this is a one-time ask. Just, it wouldn't be an ongoing ask each year, because the expectation would be that once this position was in place, that the grants would fund that position going forward.
What happens if other municipalities don't?
Well,
them the
and,
funding.
and I think what we should do is, if we vote to approve this, it'd be predicated on enough of the other municipalities also agreeing to this request. But otherwise, we can put it in the budget, and then if the actual, if the other communities and counties come through, then we can go ahead and put our money in the pot, because like I said, it will really help make it all work better.
So this would be for dispersal in 2022?
That's correct.
Yes, yes, yeah, we would hire that person to work for the Southwest COG in 2022. And I know that that's,
It sounds like a reasonable middle ground to say, we'll wait to see, you know, if nobody else is doing it, there's no point in our doing it, so.
yeah, and like I said, and I don't think it's unreasonable to put a caveat on a motion to say that we're waiting to see what the other communities are gonna do. I mean, honestly, our share is pretty small compared to what the share Durango would be asked to pay, or what the share that La Plata County would be asked to pay, but still, it all adds up, and everybody's share, when it's all said and done, is pretty equal as far as the population of the communities involved.
Is that what the
so-
4980 is based on, its population?
Yes, yes.
And keep in mind that your public hearing for your budget is Monday, so you still have to consider this additional amount on Monday. It's just
Right.
basically to make sure that you would like to consider it, so.
I know, an
No,
extra
it's-
$5,000.
it's-
I'm like, but I don't want to spend more money.
Yeah, I know, it's one more thing.
Yeah.
And,
I feel like we're getting nickel and dime.
we
here.
do, well, I don't know of any government entity that doesn't get nickel and dime to death, and that's why you have boards that oversees those nickels and dimes.
What do you guess
But-
is your temperature from the other municipalities?
I believe that when this is all said and done, that we're probably gonna end up getting people to, on board on this. And that's basically because there are so many grants and other things that need to be written that, it can't, Miriam just can't do it all. She just cannot do it all.
Is she the one that's been writing the grant so far?
She's been the primary grant writer, at this point. Jessica probably helps on that to some degree, but, she has other responsibilities as well, so.
So David, they're hiring someone, and then you're saying this is a one-time only, so this person will then have to find grant funding to fund
for
their
their job.
position
Yeah,
moving
basically,
forward?
yep, absolutely,
Okay.
yep.
So I mean, we can,
And honestly, I think that the prospects would be good, you know, if you get somebody that knows what they're doing, they get in there and write good grants and, you know, certain administrative costs are part of the
And so
overall cost of doing business.
they have listed, they're related to ongoing broadband infrastructure development, new housing initiatives, continued workforce development, and enhanced regional mobility management and transit coordination. So, you know, it's not just a grant writer, there's focus, and obviously focused on the funds that are available for grant opportunities.
And really, when you look at the broad spectrum of grants available through the Southwest COG, I mean, there's, like I say, transportation, broadband, housing, you name it, there's a lot of different opportunities for funding mechanisms to be approached and hopefully tapped, because, and it's always, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get.
well, we can certainly see what happens in the next 6 days, I guess, and I will.
Because honestly, if every other community has put this on their agenda, then we'll have an idea of what's going on.
And then we can
So,
certainly review it.
Can I, Katie, not, if this is putting you too much on the spot, you don't have to answer it, but is this money well spent?
Your top priorities are workforce housing and broadband. I would say yes,
Okay.
it's well spent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion to review the additional ask at the budget hearing.
Madam Mayor, I would make a motion to review the additional 4980 request from Southwest Colorado COG at the October 25th, 2002 budget public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Yes,
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes?
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to information management systems.
So the board actually approved $9,000 for us to scan all of the large plats upstairs. We have cut out probably over half of the plats that were duplicates or that were not necessary. I think probably the most important issue is the fact that they would be destroyed within 60 days. So we could have them scanned. There's no funding to go pick them up and bring them back. And so it was $1,500 to pick them up and take them to Denver. So it's up to you. I'm asking for your agreement to approve this, but then you may consider, you know, what you would want. You want the paper back. I mean, I'm going to tell you I don't want the paper back.
She does not want paper.
But that is your choice. Those are your documents. We have spent considerable time making sure that we're only sending what needs to be scanned. By law, we are to keep all commercial building plans, and so there are a lot of them. We also have a lot of the plans from the town hall, the park building, the Eagle Park Pavilion. You know, I even found the Chamber building that I guess got given away. So anyway, I
You
think
haul
that
it.
I think that it's money well spent, and I think if they destroy them, that we're working on a digital management system anyway. So
So if they're scanned and we don't have to legally keep a paper copy, I would say get rid of them.
I would say, with the exception of the old Sanborn maps, and if there's old Sanborn maps included in that, I'd like to see those put back in the catalog up there. 'Cause those-
Sanborn maps explain
What is
that.
Those are the really old ones. The really old maps. The property maps that would have been drawn back when the town was first platted.
Yeah, anything for historical value?
Yeah, I mean, those old
Well,
maps.
maybe those ones should go
those
to the
really,
ho-
really
be
old
donated
maps.
to the Heritage
Well, no,
Society.
they need to be up there because honestly, I've had to go back and look at those maps. And I can see right now, and I've talked to Josh about an issue on the south side of town where we have a person that is keeping another person from accessing a particular parcel that he owns,
But if they're scanned,
and he,
you have access to them. You just
Yes,
have
well,
access in a different
it's-
way.
yeah, but it's, not everybody has that ability. I would still like to see those
So-
old
disagree.
maps come back to us. Not every, some of those maps
So
are
keep in mind that
ridiculous,
we are following the record retention schedule, even sorting them. And if they were not an eligible map to save through the record retention schedule that you've adopted, and I'm assuming they're like the old assessor's maps.
I can't say that. I have no idea, but I know that I've gone up there at different times and gone through, and I have copies. I've had copies of those maps made that I needed for whatever work I was working on. But I know that there are other people that may have the same needs.
So like I said, we follow the record retention schedule, only the plats that we have to save. Keep in mind that every recorded plat that was up there, we have access to it already digitally through the clerk
Right.
recorder's office. There's no reason for us to keep recorded plats up there because we have much easier access.
If a individual within the community, or a landowner here in the community comes to the town and has an issue with a property, will the town provide them maps so that they can verify what they might see as an issue?
Everything that
Or
is.
will they have to pay to find the map? Pay to look at a map? That's what I
So
wanna know.
in the previous organizations, communities that I worked in, we put those all online. Our website needs a lot of work before we put
Yes, it
anything
does.
online. And they were just available to anybody at no cost. The clerk and recorder may get a little upset if we put her recorded plats when she's receiving, monetary value for those copies. So at this point, we don't have a really good system other than sending them the digital copy of it. And right now, we're sending digital copies at no cost to anybody, as long as they ask for it, know what they're asking for.
And even people who don't have access to that kind of digital stuff, they usually have somebody or a friend that does these days.
How much paperwork
I say
are we
get rid of
talking
them.
about?
I mean, you're,
Like a whole U-Haul full, or
Oh,
like,
no. No, well, it would have been a U-Haul before.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
I mean,
Right
some of
now,
these-
it's probably, if you think of this table as a box, it could probably fit in this, a box this size.
Okay, so it is a lot.
I still say scan it and get rid of it.
I mean, to sort through all that and try to pull out the ones that we think have historical value, I think it's
Yeah, they could have, and if,
some of them could already be gone, and
Hey, David, up the fort, what is that department that,
Center Southwest Studies.
where they took the Klan stuff?
Uh,
Would they be interested in any of that?
Some of the old maps, they may well be, but
Maybe
as
that would
far
be a
as the,
repository for it.
as far as the general property maps that you're gonna find typically at assessor, probably not. But there are some maps up there that they may be interested in. But like I said, those were the really old Sanborn maps. And Sanborn was a guy who went around and drew maps for a lot of different communities when, at the turn of the century. So they're very common, but they're not, like I said, if we don't have a copy up there and we have a copy, we ought to leave the copy up there. That's just what I'm saying.
And I guess it probably would be beneficial if you came and took a look at what we've retained based on.
Yeah, actually, that would probably be a thing, because I could probably go up there and tell you whether or not you have what I think you should have up there right now, because I have a real good idea
And
of
so-
what the maps were that were necessary for me to make my arguments when I had a legal issue.
So what,
I'm just gonna say this, I believe that there's a lot of information at the county and through surveyors that would help make that argument. The La Plata County GIS system is very powerful. There's a lot of information there. As far as going back to historical, I have concerns that those, if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, it's not on the retention schedule that you've adopted, and it may already be in a recycle pile.
be gone, yeah. I didn't know that this was gonna be quite this discussion at all, but
I mean,
I didn't
Well,
think
and
about,
like
I
I
didn't
said,
think
that-
about.
no, this is
They're-
important because I mean, so
Well-
I was on a committee years ago where the high school was getting rid of old banners that we didn't need anymore. There was an uproar. There was a huge uproar. I was part of the uproar because they're historical to this town, and we care about this town. We care about the community. We care about there are people that care about those documents. So if we are destroying historical maps, that's an issue.
I mean, they're still there, they're just in a different form. They're scanned in.
I don't know. Some stuff is.
But that's what I'm saying, they've been doing this document management for quite a while.
Oh, I know
Some of
that.
these could be gone already.
And that's very true.
They've been in a recycle pile.
So
So-
is there a possibility, David, could you look at these and then could we vote on this at our next meeting? Like, I'm just trying to figure it out so that
Yeah,
it's a
I'd go up and
win-win.
take a gander.
Because if there's some things that are historical that yes, I'm all for scanning and no paper, like that's what I'm thinking. However, I would prefer us not to lose something that it's like, if someone just could have taken 5 minutes to look through, and if David has that expertise and skill, like, is this something that could just be postponed, or?
But I'd like us to donate it to the Heritage
Well,
Society
no,
and
that's what
not
I'm
keep it
saying.
here.
I'm not saying keep it here. I'm saying it's gonna be gone.
But yeah,
Depending on where it goes is another story.
I think that's fine.
But I'm signing you up, David, to figure this
I'll
out.
go,
Otherwise, we
You've
I
are
just
am
been
happy-
voluntold.
Okay.
I am happy to go upstairs and look through the maps and tell you what I think ought to be there if it's still there. If it's not there, it's not there.
Is this doable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
What
Well,
I'm
it's-
thinking
Katie,
is,
is this
the
doable?
easiest thing would be just to have them, all the documents you scan come back.
Yeah, but how much does that
But you just said
cost?
that's
It's
$1,500?
$1,500 to pick them up and take them, and $1,500
$1,500
to bring them back.
Yeah, and that's.
Because they
you
have
know,
to go get
Hell,
scanned, you
I'll
know,
do
it's
it
like,
for 500.
I'm sorry?
I'll do it for 500.
Yeah, shoot, I
and-
would, whatever the fuel is, I would do that, you know.
I'm like, I have family.
All right, well, we can make sure that before 60 days, somebody's scheduled to
To
go
go
pick
get
them up and bring them back.
deal?
Hey, if
And
somebody,
and what's ever in the recycle pile, I'll let somebody go through, because there's no reason spending money to scan some things that
We
that
don't
are
need.
not in the retention schedule.
Right.
And I am very sentimental towards historical maps. I did not see anything I felt was even in the pot, because I went through everything. I don't remember seeing
Oh.
anything that you're referring to. I am accustomed to, maybe we didn't have a Sanborn in the other counties, but there were the assessor maps that were very valuable. We found a much better way to manage those versus
Mhm.
the big books that we had, so.
All right, one of you's
No, the maps I'm
taking a road
referring
trip.
to, they were in the drawers up there, so.
Nothing's in the drawers except for, everything's ready to, bag up and leave.
I'll go take a look.
So Katie, can you give us a time frame that we need to determine when this needs to be done by, otherwise we've lost our chance?
So the thing is, they're getting shipped off. That's not,
Yeah, you can ship
Yes.
them out. You-
the question is, do we have them returned? Yes, we've,
But if
But
they're here to look
Somebody's
at,
gonna go pick them up.
but someone's gonna go
for-
pick them up to save the town $1,500. That's what's happening here.
okay.
If we do it, yeah.
Road-
Otherwise, they'll be-
That's fine.
Road trip.
That's fine.
Okay. Then I would,
I'm just trying to give us a end, like this has to be done by this time, otherwise you've lost your chance, so that we're not talking about this in December.
well, once
Which
they
we
get
could, it's
scanned, we have
60
60 days.
Okay.
So this firm comes down here to the CDOT, and they pick up all their plats and scan them. So he is doing this on a trip coming down, a trip coming back, and we have winter coming. So it's not the recycle boxes. Anybody who wants to can go through them. In fact, we were gonna give them to the tree house because they could draw on them and
Do art.
do all kinds of things. I was gonna take them for my grandson so he could make quite a picture.
Tape them all together and drive
He's
cars.
like, I'm not gonna tell you, I've already
Yeah,
taken.
so the recycle thing, everything else, somebody is volunteering to take them back, go pick them up and bring them back, and that's fine.
So I would entertain a motion to reflect what we just talked about.
Well, executing the statement of work, is that different from then someone has to go pick these up? Because we still need to have you execute the
No,
statement of work, right?
I would go look, but like I said, you know, it's not do or die whether we keep these things. I mean, honestly, historical maps should be kept. If they're not up there now, they've already been disposed of.
Well, there's a recycle pile up there that's fairly large.
I can go look up there and see if
Yep.
they are there. If they're not there, they're not there. But I don't think we need to go through all of the stuff that's already been scanned, for God's sakes.
Okay,
Okay.
All right.
Let's, I would entertain a motion.
I'm lost. What's that motion saying?
To authorize myself to execute the MSI statement of work.
I would like to make a motion to authorize Mayor Tarkington to execute the MSI statement of work.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
A reluctant yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
A wholehearted yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politas.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay. Keep in mind your upcoming meeting schedule. We do have our October 25th public hearing regarding the 2022 budget at 6:30 here at Town Hall. Our November 2nd regular board meeting may be moved due to the election.
Oh. Like at a later time
Could we
or
just move
day?
it? could we move-
Location.
Yeah, then could we move that to November 1st? I mean, it's a Monday,
I mean,
or not?
how did we do that? We have moved it.
we just moved it upstairs.
We just-
So
yeah.
we just went upstairs and had,
Oh, isn't
had,
that
had
where
it the bit
room.
large
We'll just move
conference room.
location.
Because they're gonna be
got it.
voting.
Yeah,
in
so
there.
if they don't plan to use this room, but just in case, there's gonna be people wandering in here until 7 o'clock, so,
Okay.
We could just hold the meeting off and don't start it till 7.
it's fine, but typically if they're in here, then they're or they're doing their work. I mean, usually they work long
Oh,
after
yeah.
the election,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm not gonna,
Yeah, they'll work hours after.
All right, and we have Bayfield's hosting the next RHA. Is that?
that's what I understand, and the calendar invite has all the other municipalities, stated except for Bayfield, so I have to verify that.
All right, and then we have our November 16th regular board meeting. Do we have any board reports?
You kind of got most of that with Southwest Cog, I would say, in our ask, but, you know, it's still the same old as far as broadband, you know, we talk about housing, but we talked about broadband quite a lot more this time going around, but still, it's the same thing. I mean, we're short of funding, short of people to pursue funding, and that's why the reason for the ask, so.
Okay. At this time, we will move into our executive session portion of the meeting. I would entertain a motion from the board.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to confer with legal counsel for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions and determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators in the matter of Roan v. Town of Bayfield, 2021 CV 30138 pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 4B and CRS 24-6-402 4EI.
I'll
Or
second.
L, I'm not sure.
All right, we
Sorry.
have a motion and a second.
So I do need the second to repeat that motion.
Yes.
That's not necessary.
Okay.
Are you sure?
All right,
Of
just want
course,
to make
just
sure.
a second, as long as the
All right.
All right, roll call.
motion is clear.
Okay. Motion is clear. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Black.
Yes.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Joswick.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Politis.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor?
Madam Mayor,
Do we make the second
I need to
motion
go to
now,
bed.
Okay.
or later?
We
I'll be
get
right
a,
back. Can I do that?
yes, now's your chance.
Yes, bio break?
Yes.
You require me leaving the room and let
It's
you-
okay. Go.
There we go. Okay.
We have to do a
Do I turn this off?
potty break?
Yes.